In the forest, nature changes her colours unusually discreetly. We can't perceive all the signs of the coming of different seasons. Clear signals of imminent change appear in autumn, when the last leaves of many colours settle around the trees and a shade of grey imperceptibly creeps into the dark green of the needles. It is an unmistakable sign that the forest is preparing itself for winter. Until the first white flakes appear, one can feast the eyes on the beauty of multicoloured autumn. But soon, the all-pervading snow will make sure that the forest dons its white and grey costume. Will it still stay beautiful, attired only in a few colours? In winter, especially after fresh snowfall, everything's covered in this immaculate white and has this incredible charm. In winter, nature noticeably slows the pace of life. However, the work of the people of the forest goes on uninterrupted through all 4 seasons. True, winter has its rules, but work at this time is in some ways less arduous. With present-day technology, the time of year doesn't make any special difference, but by forest workers themselves, it may be seen differently. Generally, winter working is easier for people. Indeed. True, frost can make things difficult, but on the other hand, there aren't the troublesome insects and the often merciless summer heat. But it's not the easiest type of work. Increasingly often these days, one can encounter harvesters in the forest, human-controlled machines which fell and trim trees. But the real art lies in the woodcutter's skills, on which doing this hard and dangerous job competently mainly relies. You have to be aware of literally everything: the weather, temperature, wind direction and strength, people working nearby, and especially yourself. A woodcutter's work is done under the open sky. Here, conditions are complex, so the woodcutter must act in accordance with the accepted standards of work safety and hygiene. He must see what's happening in front of him and behind, and works in an open space. You never know who may enter a logging site. Even though there are rules prohibiting entry to felling areas, the woodcutter must keep an eye open all round. A woodcutter's forest breakfast has nothing in common with hasty slapdash snacking. Rather, it's a daily ritual, centered round the warmth radiating from a bonfire. When there's a frost, quite often a dozen or so degrees below zero, the woodcutter has to make sure he has the necessary energy reserves, for soon it will be time to leave the wood crackling in the fire and go back into the cold encircled forest. The woodland winter does not treat its living charges lightly. When everything disappears under a crust of frozen snow, when the all-embracing whiteness thoroughly conceals food plants from the animal's sight, then the foresters can help. And of course they do, but under strictly defined conditions. We do supplementary feeding only in winter, and even then when the animals are short of food. Winter is a period when there is less food available, but its most inhospitable aspect is lack of access to water for deer, as most bodies of water in the forest are frozen at this time. So then we have to provide them with fodder that is as succulent as possible, haylage or roots which contain a lot of moisture, as the animals have no access to their normal drinking places. No doubt about it, the animals like these forest bars. It's enough to appear with their favourite delicacies, and we can be sure that while putting them out, we will be carefully observed from behind the nearby trees. We hear a lot about counting the wildlife in the forest, and maybe smile ironically to ourselves. It is, after all, difficult to ask red deer, elk or wild boar to file past the census enumerators in an orderly fashion. So how is this unique type of forest census conducted? It's difficult to say that it's a census. We can only talk of an estimate of the number of animals living in a given area. The best time for making the best possible count of animals is of course winter, during a period when there is a fresh fall of snow. After it, you can see all the animals' tracks and other signs of their movements. One can also use the method of sample drives. We choose some representative areas of woodland. They are observed by people stationed in the forest, while the animals are driven through the area in such a way that the observers can spot particular specimens and species found there. The results are summed up, extrapolated with reference to the whole forest district's area, and so we get the number of animals of various species in the area in question. Obviously with some margin of error, plus or minus 20%. The results of this count help to plan the number of game that can be removed. If we consider that we have too many of a given species, then we take out more. But if the numbers are considered too low, we do of course restrict what can be taken.